Hi guys, my name is Margaret. I'm one of the dietitians over at North Carolina Surgery Rex Bariatrics. Today I'm going to show you how to make a vegetarian everything crusted tofu Cobb salad. Now Cobb salad has been around since 1939 and it originated in California. And traditionally a Cobb salad has greens, it has tomatoes, it has hard-boiled eggs, it has cheese, it has avocados, it has bacon, and it has chicken. But today we're gonna slim that down and we're also gonna make it vegetarian. So it's gonna be fresh, it's going to be easy, and it's going to be delicious. It's also very easy to prep ahead. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first step is preparing our tofu. And the preparing of the tofu is actually gonna be the thing that takes the longest and takes the most amount of planning. Because whenever we purchase tofu, we actually have to press the tofu. Now, tofu comes in a variety of different textures. It comes in silken tofu, which is something you'd want to use in a pudding or cream into a soup. It comes in extra firm, it comes in soft, and it comes in extra soft. Silken is actually the most popular tofu that is sold in the United States. Personally though, I prefer extra firm tofu. So when we purchase tofu, it actually comes in this sealed water-packed container. So the tofu is actually inside of that. Now, whenever we get the tofu, we need to cut out the actual block of tofu, dump the water off of that, and then we actually have to press tofu. Pressing tofu is going to release that water that the tofu absorbed during the storing process, and that's going to allow the tofu to actually absorb the flavors of what you cook it in. And that's really the beauty of tofu, is that it should absorb whatever flavor you cook it in. Now, you have several options for pressing tofu. Personally, I have a tofu press. I bought this, or I received it for a birthday present. Tofu goes in here, you screw it down and then let it sit for about 20 minutes. I understand though, most people probably don't eat enough tofu to warrant owning a tofu press. So the other option is something that everyone should have on hand. The other option is that you take your tofu and you actually are going to wrap it in either paper towels or clean dish towels, whichever you want to use. And so we're actually going to wrap the tofu up in the paper towels. I'm gonna wrap it up nicely, gonna put that on my cutting board. Let's move the knife so I don't hurt myself. Then I'm actually gonna stack heavy things on top of this. So I know this seems really rudimentary, but it works very well. So we have my tofu, gonna stack it with some cookbooks, and you'll do that for about 15 to 20 minutes. And while that's pressing, you actually have a chance to prepare some of your other ingredients, or take a little nap, whichever you prefer. First, we're gonna mix up our marinade. So I'm gonna mix our marinade in a glass bowl, and I'm going to get out my olive oil, I'm going to get out my red wine vinegar, and I'm going to get out my miso. Now I do apologize, I don't have the original container that my miso came in, but miso is actually a paste. It is a fermented soybean paste. You can normally find it at a good price at the Asian supermarket. You can also find it at Harris Teeter. Probably you could find it at Wegmans. If you don't want to buy miso, that's absolutely fine. This recipe only calls for 1 tablespoon of it. A good substitute would be 1 tablespoon of soy sauce or 1 tablespoon of tahini. Now what this miso is going to give us is a nice roundness to flavor. So let me go ahead and start with the miso. So we need 1 tablespoon of miso. There we go. And I have a dark miso, but you can also find a white miso. There we go. Now I'm actually going to just use the exact same measuring spoon and mix in my tablespoon of olive oil. And next, we're going to mix in 1/3 of a cup of red wine vinegar. So this is gonna be the marinade for our tofu. This is gonna help give it a little bit of flavor. And like I said, tofu is really great in that it absorbs whatever flavor you are going to really soak it in. So I'm mixing together the miso, the olive oil, and the red wine vinegar. Now we're gonna chop our tofu. So we have our tofu, it has been pressed, all the extra water has been pressed out of it. You can see I was a little bit too violent with my tofu during the pressing process, that's why it's falling apart just a little bit, but it's still gonna have a good flavor. So with tofu, to chop it, we wanna chop it into nice cubes. And so I'm just gonna make kind of thick slices like that. Now, chopping tofu is similar to chopping cheese because tofu and cheese are actually very similar. Cheese is the curd to milk, and tofu is actually the curd to soy milk. So we are making little cubes like this. And this was a 14-ounce block of tofu, just so you know. All right, and if it starts to crumble a little bit, that's absolutely fine. If it starts to rip a little bit, that's fine too. And tofu is a great product because it is going to be a complete protein. So 1 ounce of protein is, or 1 ounce of tofu is going to give you about 7 grams of protein. Tofu is also going to be high in isoflavones, which is actually proven to prevent cancer. Tofu also is beneficial in preventing symptoms of menopause. And so we have our tofu all chopped up. You can see some cubes are beautiful, some cubes are a little bit messy. That's all right though. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in our marinade. Some of the uglier pieces I might just keep out. Mix that up so that all of our tofu is covered in our marinade. And then we're gonna put that in the refrigerator and let that sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. And you wanna be gentle while you stir it so you don't destroy your beautiful chunks. Next, we're gonna make our salad dressing. So what we're gonna make is actually a low-calorie ranch dressing. So to make this ranch dressing, it's very simple. You only need 3 ingredients. You need half a cup of skim milk. You need a 7 or 8 ounce amount of 2% plain Greek yogurt. I like Fage, so that's why I got the Fage. And then you need 1 packet of Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning or store brand equivalent, whichever you prefer. So we're just gonna whisk that up really quickly. So let me start by opening my yogurt. Don't forget, Fage yogurt comes with that little piece of paper on top, so don't get weirded out by that. Now I'm gonna add my half a cup of skim milk. And finally, I'm gonna add my ranch seasoning. So this is a very easy recipe to just keep on hand in your refrigerator. Very easy to just whisk together. It keeps for about a week, week and a half. All right, so just gonna whisk this up really well, and then you actually wanna let it chill for about an hour before you use it. That will allow it to thicken up a little bit. So into the fridge for about an hour, and then once it's ready, you can by all means store it in a mason jar, store it in any type of bottle that you want. And like I said, it keeps in the refrigerator for about 7 to 10 days after you make it. So always a good thing to have on hand. So I'm gonna preheat the oven to 400 degrees and let that start to warm up.